So today I wanted to talk about some of the things that I've learned in 2020, since the year doesn't appear to be over. So obviously, considering the pandemic and the fact that like the world had to shut down for extended periods of time, and still are in a lot of places, I've definitely recognized how social I need to be. Like people are just social; they need to be social. I am very much an introvert. I'm very much a recluse. I really like being left alone. I am the first to cancel plans or rejoice when plans are canceled. It's like my favorite thing. But I definitely realized how much I took for granted before the shutdown. Because now I've spent a very long time just at home. And I definitely have had it very easy compared to a lot of people. Like, for instance, I work from home. I have control over my work. So actually during the pandemic, during shutdowns, like pretty much throughout, I had a lot of people asking me to talk about isolation and what it does to people. And I mean, it's incredibly damaging. Obviously, people are social, no matter how like introverted or antisocial you think you are social. You need to at least be like interacting with some people. So one of the main things that I took away from that experience was that, you know, when we finally come out of this, I want to embrace social situations more often. I want to take advantage more of those things. I live in a city where a lot is happening, and I often would find myself feeling like it's so much better or it's so much easier if I could just like spend the night at home. Like, why? Oh, I don't want to go out and do that. It seems like so much work. And if you are an introvert, then you understand it is. It's very like exhausting. And one of the ways that I recharge is by being left alone. I do need alone time, but I don't want that to overtake those like experiences, because I'm having fewer experiences that are memorable by staying here by myself. Another really big takeaway would be how incredibly divided, and not into two sides, but into tiny little fractions, my country is. I live in the US, I live in Los Angeles, so that's where my point of view is, coming from. But it's becoming more and more apparent to me that considering, especially since we're like so removed from each other right now and we're just like indoors and we're getting all of our information from like just online, which is never a good indicator of like what the entire world thinks. You can't just go on to like a Twitter conversation and read a bunch of comments and be like, oh my god, that's what like the world thinks. It's not a clear representation. But it's becoming more and more apparent that, like, I mean, for instance, and I don't know if this is like more true in cities, I don't fucking know any of my neighbors. I'm friendly with like one girl. I see people. I don't know what any of these people think, like, at all. I haven't had conversations with them really. I know my building manager. That's about it, So then I'm thinking about like all these people who are in these buildings near me. I don't know any of these people. I don't know what they think. And I think it's becoming more and more like that like we don't know what the people next to us, what their experiences are, what their beliefs are, what they support, what they think. And it feels like people are becoming more and more separated. And I kind of think that people are sort of like contributing to that without realizing it. Like there is this self-separation, which seems to be like a combination of, I don't know, sort of a resignation that like, kind of what I was talking about in, I can't even remember what video that was, the monologue versus dialogue video maybe, where people are just kind of like resigned to the fact that like the world is crazy and people are so divided, so that's just the reality, and they don't feel like they can or want to try and facilitate more like dialogue or communication. That's definitely what it feels like. So those are obviously two big things and two huge deciding factors for me in beginning this channel. Because I did feel for the last year very separated from people. I mean, I was thinking about, somebody texted me about like someone that I knew It's not worth going into, but I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen them in like 2 years. And then I started thinking about like all of the, I mean, I used to rely on work events to be more social because I'm just not like a very social person naturally. So those kind of forced me. Like I had the excuse to be like, okay, well, it's for work, so I have to go and do this, or I should go and do this. But without that, I mean, it's like very, very difficult. It's very difficult. And I'm just feeling more and more like I don't want to miss out on those things. Like I want them back so badly. And when I do have the opportunity to do those things, I want to take a lot of the things that I have learned over this past year, for example, facilitating more conversations with people who I wouldn't necessarily be interested in previously. I don't know if that's like how I want to describe it. Or maybe I wouldn't necessarily think, like maybe I would make an assumption that they're not particularly interesting or that we wouldn't have a lot in common just by looking at them. Because I feel like that's obviously like people are judgmental, you know, like you look at someone and you're kind of like, oh, I like their vibe. Maybe I'd be interested in them or vice versa, you know? So I'm trying to give more benefit of the doubt and communicate more and be able to like take more away from that, because I think that's like such a huge, that's just such a huge thing about just like our experience on this earth that we should all be taking advantage of. And if you're not, it's like, why? There's absolutely no reason to be so removed and such a recluse. Like who is it benefiting? And I'm not saying, because I am very much an introvert, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be an introvert, that all of a sudden you should like change your entire life and you should be like so extroverted and try to like have all these huge experiences that you wouldn't because of this like pandemic. You should completely change your life after we come out of it. I definitely don't think that that's, you know, and I'm not going to be doing that. But like, trust me, I'm still going to be, you know, a bit of a recluse and an introvert, and I'm probably still going to complain about social interaction, but and how much it exhausts me. But I definitely recognized like certain things that I was taking for granted during this time and miss so much, and hopefully will remember this and like appreciate much more when we do come out of it. And I know I keep saying when, because I'm just like, when? And I think from just like a personal point of view or a personal standpoint, just like something that like an individual can do in just a crazy time like this is just implement those things. Because I have mentioned this in other videos where I talk about like communication and people with opposing opinions. All you can really do is handle how you act in certain situations when you're communicating with other people. So trying to just be like more open, more understanding, ask more questions, and try really hard to like make that connection and understand the other person. And that is a really, really big thing that I've taken away from this year, considering, you know, being removed from people for so long, being isolated, missing social interaction, but also seeing how divided people in general are over just everything. Pick a subject. And if you're feeling like you resonate with this and you're like, yeah, but I don't know how to go about doing that, my best advice, and I've been suggesting this to a lot of people who, particularly when discussing like people with opposing opinions, how to handle conversations, because a lot of people are like, well, I want to be open, but it's really difficult to have conversations with people who are so closed off, and become so emotional and, you know, just don't want to hear anything that I have to say. I think the best way to handle those situations is to ask a lot of questions, as if you have no idea what any of the answers could possibly be, as if you've never considered it. Ask that person the question as if you are relying on them to tell you it. Because I think a lot of the time, the more you do that, the more you ask questions, you're showing interest in whatever that is. And if you feel like you're not able to get through to someone by just telling them things, asking them questions allows them to, you know, first of all, open up a little bit more, but also it starts to make them question the things that they are holding on to. Like if you think that someone's belief is just absolutely ridiculous, telling them that isn't going to do shit. asking them why they believe a specific thing and asking them more and more questions about it forces them to think about that thing. And you either might find common ground in that discussion, or you might actually get that person to question like their own opinions and beliefs that they probably haven't considered, like why they even believe them for a very long time. My lungs are tired. It's super redundant, but what I've taken away most of all from the year was the importance of communication on the largest and the smallest scales. Yeah. What did you guys learn over 2020? Try not to make it depressing. Try to put a positive spin on it. We don't need any more of that. I am interested though. What are you taking away from this whole experience? Like, do you feel like you want to come out of this with sort of a fresh take or a changed point of view? Or not at all? Yeah. Great talk. Happy 2021. Ugh, that sounds stupid.